Okay. Yeah. Let's just start because I want Ray and Angeline to have enough time. But while I am ending with this, which is going to be a few minutes, most people will be here. So welcome everyone. Thanks for again one more time for being here. One another month here at the Tableau user group for the state of Florida. We're also the Orlando Tableau user group. That's how we started many years ago. Been doing this for almost 11 or 12 years, something like that. We meet every month. Here are some information for if you want to connect with Aaron and I in LinkedIn, Twitter, uh, talk pages, email, anything you need. We're here to help you. That's what we're here for. Um, Super exciting topics today. Like I said, we're welcome again. We're the Florida Tableau user group. Month of June. We're doing this every month. This is Aaron Simmons and Jamil. That's my name, Jamil Medina. I'm a Tableau ambassador. I'm one of the hosts and co-leaders with Aaron for the Tableau user group. We live both in Orlando and in very close to the parks. I'm like 7 minutes from Universal Studios, 7 or 8 minutes, and Aaron probably like 50 minutes from Disney World and all that stuff. So yes, we're very close from Disney and Universal Studios. Many people always ask us that. So happy to keep doing this for many months to come. We have great speakers in the next months too. And please connect with us. We share our LinkedIn information on in the chat. So also please connect with us. Um, so, like I said, what we're here for, we've been doing this for 4 years straight every month. Now, this user group, like I said, is one of the largest in the United States, one of the oldest to in the country. And we're here to connect, to promote. If you have job opportunities, let us know any job opportunities out there, remote or in Florida. More than happy to help you finding good talent, good people that can, do something related to Tableau, data analytics. We're here for that. Just let us know. Um, we're always helping for that. Now today, what is today? We have Ray Givler. He's going to give us amazing tips and tricks that he got from the Tableau conference. We were all there on the Tableau conference. And Angéline Le Ménach from they're from Canada, from Montreal, beautiful place, beautiful city. She's going to talk with us about elevating your data storytelling and arts and symbolism. So wonderful, amazing topic that all of us need that. All of us need to get better at data storytelling. As you can see, these are the new months are coming up. So we have a speaker for every month. We always doing this um, during lunchtime. We're trying to do that lunch and learn. We learned from many years of doing this that that's the best time. So you don't have to ask your boss, like, can I be out 1 hour or whatever. So here, we're always trying to do this Wednesday and Thursdays. Like I said, during lunchtime, and every month we have great speakers. Next month, we have someone that is winning a lot of Beast of the Days. Tanya is going to talk about how she's doing that, how she is able to get some of those bits of the day again and again. And then a good friend of us, Param, he is insane. He is a Tableau influencer. He's all over LinkedIn everywhere. He was in the Tableau conference, did many speakings over there. I went to his session, and he's going to talk to us how to become an influencer. And we also have another influencer in Dre that he's going to talk with us about that too, a little bit about his experience and what he does for the Tableau community, in addition to his tips and tricks. So we have another influencer with us today. And then, like I said, we have other months. We're gonna keep talking and getting you about that every month. So every month you want to meet with us, we have great speakers, and everything is scheduled already for every month. Now, what do we have today? First speaker, Ray Givler. He's I'm trying to always provide a brief very brief bio of our speaker, because I know that they are going to also share with you who they are, what do they do. So for me, it's just trying to introduce them really quick. He's a top voice of LinkedIn, Tableau influencer, feature author. He specializes on healthcare data. He's working with healthcare data for so many years, And like he said, Ray, one of the things that I love over Ray is every single day, almost every single day, Ray has something out there in LinkedIn to share some great tips and tricks, to share something with us, the community. I think I just learned like 2 days ago about something with dimensions that you can put it on size. I don't think I knew that. So I don't remember doing that. So there's always something that you should learn from Ray. So follow Ray. You will get something in your LinkedIn feed that you will learn something from him, which is amazing. So great guy. I met him for the first time in person in the Tableau conference. I think it was like a month or so ago with Aaron. So that was super cool. So thank you, Ray, for being here. And then we have directly from Canada. We have Angéline, directly from Canada. I love your accent. So you guys are gonna be happy that you're gonna learn and listen to her voice today. So she knows French, English. She's a data analytics manager, and she's been doing this for a long time too. She's great with storytelling. Also presented in the Tableau conference. So that's why we're super excited that we're bringing this amazing Tableau conference, session here to our user group. I mean, what better than that, right? So she's going to talk again about art, symbolism in your data storytelling. She's very good with financial services, auto, retail, aviation, and like I said, I'm gonna just giving a brief bio of our speakers so that they can tell you more about them and what they do. So what else? Remember, next month, 717, I'm sorry, 717. Probably I'm gonna be on the beach, I think, that week, but I'm still gonna do my user group, and maybe I'm gonna have a nice background next month. So if you want to see that, hopefully you will be with us next month. I think this is a Wednesday during lunchtime. I want to say thank you, everyone, again for being here, being with us again one more month. And I'm going to start with Ray. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Ray is going to start very soon. Ray said that he cannot share his video, but he's going to definitely share his screen.
Yep.
We'll start. Yeah, thank you, Ray. How are you? How are you today?
Sure, I'm doing great. Thanks for the introduction. That was really kind. Thanks for having me here. I don't know that I need to say too much more about myself. That was a pretty good summary. And yeah, I met Yamil in person and Aaron at the conference at Data Night Out. We didn't really plan to meet other than, hey, let's try to get together. But I was just walking through there and I heard hey, Ray. And Yamil was right beside me. So that was a good meeting. We got to chat there and hang out. So that was good. Yeah, I apologize. My camera is not functioning right now. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm a little bit sad because I'm wearing my Viz Legend t-shirt that I got for participating in Data Plus Movies. That Tableau is still running, and I think you can still get a t-shirt. So that's something I wanted to mention today. Also, starting out saying, I believe the applications and nominations for Tableau Ambassador are still open, I think, through July 11th. I don't know if one of you guys can find a link for that. Maybe put that out there. So, Yamil, how we're at 13 after. How long am I going here? When should I try to finish by? I'm gonna
like 40 minutes or so.
All right.
Can you share your screen, see if it works?
Yeah. I haven't tried to share yet, so we're not completely broken down here or anything.
Don't worry, you're good.
All right, and I'm gonna pop right over to here if I can. Well, I forgot I had to hit share again here.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, perfect. We can see it.
All right. So, guys, I'm going to just use the editing mode of PowerPoint here because I'm going to jump back and forth between PowerPoint and 6 instances of Tableau Public Desktop, which I think is the most I've ever had open at once, but it's going to be for all the things I want to show you today. So a little bit of clarification on what I'm talking about from the conference. I'm calling this piggyback responses to selected session points. So when I attended some of the sessions, there are a few things where I thought, I wonder if I could do that, or like, what exactly are they talking about? Or you could also do this. So that's kind of the theme of my collecting otherwise not closely related Tableau tips, but hopefully by the end here, you guys will learn something useful. So I'm going to cover these 4 points. And I want to also say that all of these are available. I should say I have related dashboards for all of these, which you're going to see here today, and they're all out on my Tableau public. So I encourage you to go out there and check it out if you want to see more nitty gritty or get reminders. And in most of my Tableau public dashboards, I put how-to instructions as one of the tabs, so that's available as well. So back to the content for today. I'm going to do tooltip lines with characters or sheets. And Zifa Amexo of Kira spoke about that a little bit. Then I'm going to talk about consistent size by parameter. And Felicia Steyer had covered that. She's with Playfair Data. I'm going to do what I call lazy shadowing. So the Flerlage twins got a question about this, I think, in their follow-up session to cool stuff you can do in Tableau. And then I'm going to finish up with individual formats for dynamic measures. And again, that was from the Flerlage twins, and they were covering a formatting tip and how to do cool stuff in Tableau. So that's what I'm talking about. Let's get right into a reminder. This was a reminder myself for you guys to, or for me to tell you what I just did say, that my stuff is out there on Tableau Public. I encourage you to participate in that. Try the community projects like Makeover Monday. And I just published one of those today that was like from last week's Makeover. I'm a little bit behind, but that's out there. I encourage you to check it out. So let's get right into it. Tooltip lines with characters or sheets. So what happened, I was watching this and I knew there was like a sheet divider method that they had talked about at the conference. And, sometimes I can just be lazy. And I thought, like, isn't there some character we can use to make a line in a tooltip? Maybe there's something. And there are actually 3. So I tested a whole bunch of like Unicode characters here. And let's go look at it here in public. So it's this dashboard is showing, and it's repeating that same information I had in PowerPoint. If I hover over here, check it out. I have 4 different lines. So what I have found here is that the 1 and 3 seem to give a pretty good, consistent, unbroken line. So if the purpose here is if you have multiple sheets or different types of information in a tooltip and you want to separate them by a line, I'm trying to take us back to 50,000 feet. How would you do that, right? So you want a line in tooltip. You can do it by character, which may be an easier way. And you just get right in there and type how many characters you want for the width you want, color it, whatever you want. And what I'm showing here in numbers 2 and 4 is if you want a thicker line, in some cases, you could just use a bigger pointage, right? Going from 10 to 20 point on that heavy horizontal line. Now, what I've found is it depends kind of on the monitor and probably also whether you're Mac or Windows. I didn't check that, but some of these will give a slight break in the characters. Others will not. So I just recommend that you try it. And gosh, let me select my sheet. And then, gosh, can I remember how to get to this through the menus here? I'm on my tooltip. It's escaping me right now. I'm a little bit under the weather today. So let's just go here and look at the tooltip. That'll get me there. So here are those items I was talking about where I could just type another character and you can pull the characters right off the worksheet. You can do a divider as a sheet, though. So the last 4 are actually sheets. It's the 4 other sheets that I have across the bottom of the dashboard. So like this first one, let's look at that real quick. Divider sheet, and notice I have max height of 9, and that's a requirement in here. If you have it less than that, you're going to get an error message in your tooltip, like Viz does not fit in sheet, something like that. So let's go look at that. And all I have over here is the sheet colored, right? So if I right click this and hit format and my color, boom, it's that blue. And that is what is giving me the blue line. Even though this is wider here, we're only setting it to 9 pixels. So it's 9 pixels wide in here. It's this blue line. That's what I'm getting from what I'm showing you here. So that's all it really is. Like, I don't even have anything on any of the shelves, nothing in marks, rows, or columns. What you could also do if you want a different type of line is just put a 0 on rows and type a 0 in there. And once you take the focus out, it's going to change that to sum of 0. And I have a sum of 1 on detail here. What you can do then with this reference line, this is actually a reference line in here. Let me let's show header. All right. So oh, I'm sorry. This is not I'm misspeaking here. This is not a reference line. It's a formatted 0 line. Again, let's go over here to our lines, 0 lines. You could also do any of these as a reference line, but it's not how I'm doing it here. So 0 line, and then just pick the type of line you want. So I have a solid here, and I picked purple, as you can see, and these other ones dashed. It's still the 0 line. It's the dashed option, and I made that one black. And then finally, the dotted line, I selected the dotted option here and brown. So however you want to divide your tooltips, you could do it in any of those methods. And that's really the point of this part. Are there any questions in the chat? Is that confusing anyone? Did I lose people? Let me see if I see anything in the
it looks like you're good, Ray.
Okay. All right, next topic. Consistent size by parameter. So I heard enough in the presentation to get me to figure this out, but at first I didn't understand one of the steps they were talking about. So what's going on here is when you're in Tableau Public or Tableau Desktop, right? And say you had 2 graphs and you wanted these to have the same size dots here, like the dot isn't representing, the size of the dot here isn't representing any sort of measure. It's just consistent. But when you're making 2 graphs and not making them the same size, if you don't have that size, like right on this 50%, it may be hard. Like if you dragged it 2/3, are they really the same size? You can end up fooling around with these and they never look the same size. Now, if you edit online, yeah, when you click this size thing, there's like a 0 to 100, but on regular desktop, there's not. So the idea here was, how can you make these consistent without having a numeric range here, right? So let's show this parameter. The idea here is to create a parameter. Let's edit the parameter. And we're giving this 100 values because we're going 0.01 to 1 by 0.01, defaulting to midpoint. All right. And then I put that select size on size. And I also, I'm sorry, that's not what I wanted here. I'm sorry, guys. I'm a little bit out of it today. We want to edit sizes and size by range 0 to 1. So that was the size. I apologize. I can't recall how to bring back my edit size window here, but what I was doing with it is putting the parameter on both of these worksheets and then displaying it in the dashboard itself. And then if I increase this, it'll be easier to see it if I move this around. Then you can change the size of different worksheets that you want to have marks of the same size. That's the point here. And relatedly, you may have a situation where you want the marks to be of same size on different worksheets, but you do want the mark size to vary by some variable. And that's the same situation that we're going on here. It's slightly different use case how to solve it. We're going to need a different calculated field. So let's go look at the calculated field here. This is size by quantity versus max. And let's look at quantity versus max. And that is the sum of our measure over the window max sum of our measure times that same size thing. So we can still control it 0 to 100. And this is the window I couldn't open earlier, editing the sizes, where we want to set the range of this to from 0 to 1. So basically there's two elements to this sort of tip. One, you create the parameter. It's going to have the size 0 to 1. You edit the sizes. That's going to be 0 to 1. If you want them to be at the same time also varying by a measure, then you want to create a measure of this format. And when you do those things together, then you can control the size of the marks with a parameter. Now, you may not want to actually surface this to the user. The whole point of this is just being able to get these the same size and not screw around with that size slider because you don't know the exact value of it. This allows you to have an exact value across worksheets when you want the size to be consistent. So I will pause there. Are there any questions or comments in the chat?
A question about how you made the first and third line from your previous point.
The first and third line in when I was talking about the tooltip lines?
Yes.
Okay, let's go back into that. Let's go over here. I'm in the tooltip, and these, I selected these. If you don't know, gosh, I don't know how to do this on the Mac, but if you hit Windows period in Windows, hopefully you can see my emoji selector. This is an important point that I skipped. You can go over these symbols, right? And I believe it's this first symbol I have here. And then you'll see other ones like this that make good lines. And you can scroll through there to see the different characters. It would probably be a good idea, like if you can't find the one or it doesn't look like it's a consistent line, you can go out and download this workbook and just take this character right out of this text box. And then you know you'll have the right one, because these three are the ones that I'm using in that tooltip.
Real quick, Ray, what was that shortcut you used?
Hit Window, hold down the Windows key, and then hit the period. So I'll do it again. Let me go back over to the sheet. So when I'm in here, and this works in anywhere you can type text, just about. I shouldn't say anywhere. There's probably always exceptions, but Windows.
I didn't know this. I mean, this is new to me.
I didn't either.
So you said, and this is on Windows, not Mac, right?
Yeah, in Windows, hit Windows period. There is a way to do it on the in the Mac, but I don't know what it is.
If anybody knows how to do it in Mac, put it on the chat.
So I can put anything in here, you know.
Wow.
And but you could also, I mean, this same thing I'm doing, Windows period, you can use that in number formats. In
a title.
Yeah, in title you could do it. So like you could use this in a number format rather than creating a separate field for a KPI. This is a whole other tip, but you could put this, whether it's going up or down, positive or negative.
Yes.
In number format. That's kind of, I'm getting down a rabbit hole there.
If you go to the property, you go to in the data pane. So if you go to the default properties, right? Default properties. Yeah. Then you can do it there.
Yeah, that's what. So this terawatt, like here. All right, let's do it while I'm talking about it.
Okay,
so default property number format, right? And we could do it custom, and you could have like 0.0 here, and then and then 0.0, and just say we wanted to do them positive or negative. And when it was going up, let's do it after it then. Say going up, Windows period. We're going here. Whoops.
I didn't know this.
I went a little crazy there. Let's try it again. Misclicked. Up is going to go up, and I'm just going to put down right beside it, so for editing purposes. So up's up, down's down. That's my new format for my terawatts. I'm going to say okay, and then I'm going to hover over here and see my terawatts at the top of the tooltip. And it's now positive, and it goes up for up.
Correct.
So,
I didn't know this. Windows plot, to be honest, Windows dot plus whatever, and I didn't know that.
So Ray, I didn't know this either, and I'm just finishing up a KPI dashboard now. It's like 20 KPIs. That would have saved me about a half hour, at least an hour worth of work. So I wish you would have had this presentation earlier. So I would have been.
So that's worth the price of admission right there.
I'll know next time.
All right. I'm going to move on to the next tip, and I apologize for not getting right to that one window and opening it. But let's continue. So lazy shadowing. Wow, what is this? So this is my own term. Nobody else says this. So if you say it, people won't know what you're talking about. But I'm talking about creating a shadowing or effect or shapes by combining one or more images with a text box within a container. So the advantage to doing this is that if you move that container as a floating object on your dashboard, then basically the image is integrated as coming with it. So you don't have to move the text and then move an image behind it and save it and see what it renders like and try it again. You know that they're together. So I'm going to show you 3 examples of this. The first one is super simple. Some people like this. So clicking the question mark over here. This is giving me shadowed help. So it has this nice shadowed effect. You can create this type of shadow in
that's pretty cool.
Any kind of, you're probably out in Figma, or you can do it, make the things like this in PowerPoint. I use Snagit. So the point here, let's double click this. This is the container. We're going to go to the layout tab. Check this. Whoops. Check this out over here. So here I am in my horizontal container. So this is the whole, I should have renamed this. If you don't know this, you can rename these items and you can say help here or whatever this is. Helps you keep this organized over here. So what I have here is, am I on the right thing? Whoops. I think I renamed okay, here's help. I think I just renamed the wrong thing here. Sorry, guys. I accidentally clicked the worksheet in the upper left. So here I am on the right thing, which I already renamed help. So here are the elements of it. We have the sidebar. I have a very thin blank. I'm not sure why I did that. I probably just colored it the same size. I think in this case, I just colored that the same as the shading for some reason. You don't really need that. And then the text itself. So all you really need are this one and this one. If I deleted that, it looks about the same. So there you go. So the whole point is this is an image with text. They're together as one thing. The container is what's controlled by the button. So it can make your help look shadowed. Now, relatedly, let's look at this. This is what I did for Data Plus Movies, Breakfast Club. Dating myself there, a movie from the 80s. These little quote boxes, what that different characters said in the film. Let's look at layout again, and I'll try to stay clicking the same thing here. So this is my text box. It looks like this is all in one item, but what it is this text box, and there's this little shadowed thing that I created another tool on this side of it, and the right side of the bubble is there. And if I have the whole container, it's all together. And if I wanted that quote somewhere else, I could move it around like this, and the image and the text come together. Okay. So the question that initiated this, I said this is in response to somebody from the conference. I believe that someone asked the Flurledge is there an easier way to do like shadowed KPI containers? I don't know if this is easier or not. It's related. It does help when you try to move it. So that's why I'm talking about it. Last example of the same sort of concept. This, Are We Alone? This is my Iron Viz submission for this past year. And there are some pop-up items in here which are behind these show hide text buttons. Or actually, these are all little graphics. Let me alt click again. So we got this manila folder. So it's supposed to be like file folders on this information we're talking about. And this, like the other ones I was talking about, is made up of an image and a text box. So it's not all one thing. I colored my text box, and that's an important point I kind of breezed over. This is this color yellow, and I went out my other tool and made this manila yellow color and shaped the top of the folder, and then it just plops right in there in this UFO versus UAP. You know, it's one container, image plus text. And then if I wanted to say I didn't like the position of that, you know, adjust it to whatever, and they move together. So do I have another one of that? I know I have them throughout here. Here, Goldilocks zone. What does that mean? Here's another one of those down here. So those are kind of fun. And, you know, maybe you have a use case in infographics or in actual work dashboards. But that is the idea, and that's the end of that concept. Any questions on this sort of lazy shadowing, as I'm calling it?
Ray, you said you did that shading in not in Figma, but in something else.
I use a tool called Snagit. We have a site license at work, and that's what turned me on to it. And I like it so much that I have a as a symbol down here on my toolbar. I got a home license for it. So
Okay.
you could do a lot of items, though, just like that, little images through PowerPoint. Oh, gosh, Joe, I want to try to do one on the fly. I do have instructions on how to do something like this, creating objects under my Bigfoot sightings dashboard, if you guys check that out. But if I want Control New here real quick, let's see if we can do this on the fly. And insert shape, and then a rectangle, right? We got my rectangle. And then say I did format shape, fill, gradient fill. Which gradient do I want? Direction, preset. I do want it gradient, and not any of these, but you could select it over here and basically get it to be like a left to right gradient. You would only want 2 of these things.
You could just rotate the image, right?
Yeah, so I'm getting closer to what I did there. See?
Yeah.
So generally, folks, like that's the idea. That's like super quick, kind of audible deep dive into that. But that's how you can. And then what you want to do, we might as well go. Well, you want to right click, right, and save it as a picture. And then you can see here's the Bigfoot stuff I did recently out there. But yeah, save as a picture, and then you'll be able to pull that picture into your dashboard. All right. Last item. Let's go back to the presentation here. Oh, here's just another plug for that Data Plus movies that I talked about. Individual formats for dynamic measures. So what I'm going to show you here, and I don't see a lot of other people doing it, is doing it the way I'm going to show you allows you to vary the units when you have dynamic measures as well as the precisions. So I think what Kevin and Ken were showing, and I've done the same thing. This is what gave me the idea to do it. There's a way out there where you can use calculated fields to use or display a certain like prefix, meaning like dollars, or a suffix, percentage, for a calculated field when it's selected from a list of possible measures. So let's go what I'm talking about here. So like in this case, right, I am currently showing sales by the thousands, right? And I have 2 decimals precision. If I wanted to do quantity, that's counting the number of items sold, and this is Superstore data. Quantity is going to be a whole number. So here I'm changing decimals. I had 2 decimal places in the other number format. This is 0 decimal places. If I go to profit's going to be dollars too. Order count. Discount is a percentage. I'm going 1 decimal place there. And these can be whatever you want. That's how I set this up here. The way you do this is, well, first you need this parameter, right? That's going to have all your measure types in it. All your different measures that you want the users to be able to select. And Then you're going to need multiple variables that are going to ingest, multiple calculated fields that are going to ingest that variable. First, you're going to need at least one that processes all of them. So if I look at metrics all here, I'm sorry, down here, metrics all, right? This processes no matter what you've selected. And that allows us to do things like the coloring. So we want to have some sort of coloring on here, regardless of what the selection was. So that's what I'm getting by having that variable on color. And you're going to need it for sorting and other stuff. So you want one calculation that processes all the possible values. Then you're also going to want a calculated field for each possible format that you want to present. So here's my whole number ones. It's only processing these two measures. These are the ones I want to display as whole numbers when they're selected. Okay. And then what I do is under that, right, we're getting back to that default properties number format that we just went to earlier with the up and down indicator, right? So this is custom number, and that's that 0 decimal places that I showed you for those. So I have one of those for numbers, one for percent. And then I did another thing here, which may be useful where your dollar ranges vary a lot. I have one that shows the full dollars, and then another one. Let's look at, I didn't want to edit. I wanted to look at the number format. Default properties, number format. And then here I'm showing currency, 2 decimal places, but I'm showing thousands, right? So if I go back from my sheet to the dashboard itself, and so I can show you sales, that gives me down to the cent. That's the one format. But if I check sales in the thousands, that shows me in thousands. So that could be useful as well as these other format changes. So again, the difference in this and what and another approach is the other approach did not allow for differences in precision. It just had a variable for whether the dollars show up and a calculator field for whether percentage shows up. This allows you to do a little bit more and change precision. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say about that.
So when
questions? Yes,
I have a question.
So wait, I skipped a very important step.
Yeah, maybe this is it. This is what you're gonna say. Go ahead.
So what do you do with all those fields? Here they're all on text.
Okay.
Okay. So if we go to the label and look at our label, what you want to do, you don't do it with the all because we're only using that for coloring, but we stack all of our calculated fields on one line here. And what's going to happen, because each one only processes the variables that apply, the measures that apply to it, it's going to be null otherwise. So this metric number, so I'm in dollars, this is returning a null. So nothing is even showing up there. And beside that, I'm showing the base dollars. I do get a value. So that's showing me a value. Dollars K, that's not processing at this point. So nothing there. And this metric percent, nothing showing there. So let's just go back and look one more time at like metric percent. You'll see that this is only processing the ones I want to show as a percentage, the discount or the profit ratio. And because of that, all their times it's null. And when it's null, it's producing nothing. So basically, again, we stack them all up left to right on one line in the label. Right? And the one that applies shows up and the other ones show nothing. So does that answer the question you were going with, or is there another one?
No. It goes, yeah, no, it works. I knew how to do this years ago, but not the same way, right? In a different way. I think what I was missing, what I didn't like or was missing, it was the allowing the precision, what you said about the precision of the decimal. Like before, like when I did it, I couldn't figure out how to like take the decimal out, or like, okay, this one it's a whole number or a decimal, 2 decimals or 1 decimal, or like adding the thousands, like the K, right? That I think is what it's incredible, because I didn't know how to do that. and I thought that it could not be done. To be honest, I thought that it would be like, okay, I can do the percentage or not percentage or dollar sign, but not the other part. So that's what I like about this method. It's good. It's better.
And Ray, I'm currently doing something like this. It's not nearly as efficient. So I got your workbook. I'm gonna try to do it this way. The way I got it to work was I'm using the dynamic zone visibility, and I'm only bringing in sheets that's got the dollar signs, and I'm only bringing in sheets that's got the quantity, but that increases the number of sheets on my dashboard, and it's making it slower. But if everything can be on one sheet, and it's just dynamically works within that sheet, it's going to make my workbook run much faster.
Yeah, hopefully the calcs will be faster than the sheets. I mean, it is additional calculations. That's going to have some cost, but hopefully it'll be faster.
I think it's easier to manage because for maintenance, like Aaron said, just imagine that Aaron has to change that in the future. Like Aaron, think about you having to change the data or having to do all this stuff. This is easier to maintain that having all those sheets because it's hard to, the dynamic zone, hide stuff everywhere, and you have so many sheets. It's just a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Right. If I move on to another job or an area and someone's taking this over, they're not going to be able to follow it very easily. So yeah, going through the calculator is much better.
Yeah.
Cool. So this, like I said, folks, this is part of a bigger presentation I've done before, which is the Super Slicer crosstab, where everything is dynamic, and the steps for it are all out here under How To. So you can just check that out if you want to. Again, Tableau Public, you can download it, check it out.
Very cool.
I think that's the last thing I wanted to talk about here. Yeah, open to questions. We had some questions. I'm pretty close, if not at time. So,
awesome. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions for Ray? Any additional questions? Ray, tell us a little bit about what you do in as an influencer. Like maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Like, hey, like I post every day, or things that you can follow.
Sure. I started posting during the pandemic as a hobby. And then I kind of got the bug for it and started to do it more regularly. And what I try to post about is just like mini versions of what I just showed you today. Like I tried to do something in Tableau. It wasn't entirely intuitive, and this is how I solved it. So a lot of my content is like that. And I post almost every day. I think I missed one day this year. I have a lot of backlog. I keep everything in OneNote, so now I'm trying to build out a repost schedule, but I think I've had no repeats in the first 6 months, and I got dozens more left to get on the schedule. So you won't get a lot of repetition, the same thing all the time if you follow me out there. I'm also trying to bump up my Tableau Public presence in 2024. So I've done Makeover Monday on multiple occasions this year, and some other just like ideas I wanted to try out and throw out there. So I'm, building up my Tableau Public gallery. So I think there's 161 visits out there right now. They're not necessarily, oh my gosh, how much I wish we could control the sort order of that, right? So I can get the ones that I want at the top, but it just does it by date. So if I make a slight tweak or just a small project, it kind of bubbles the more, and maybe what I see is the more important stuff down. But you can check it out there. There's some fun ones out there, some interesting, some business oriented. There's quite a few. I don't know if I can jump to that. If I'm not there, I can go from my LinkedIn. I have it right at the top of my LinkedIn. I have the link to Tableau Public Gallery. So this is a recent Makeover Monday I just did. This is actually tracking my daughter's driving to get her license. Again, probably not the most important dashboard. This dynamic targets, that's fun. Breakfast Club, like I just told you about. Visual resume. If you don't have your resume in Tableau and you're a Tableau developer, maybe you ought to make one. And I did one of those out there. This dynamic radials, that's some interesting stuff going on. So there's plenty out there. Scroll up and down, how to make gradient area or sunrise charts. There's some fun things, some interesting things. So,
Ray, I just want to add to your point here on Tableau Public. That gives any prospective employers a sample of your work. They can see how you're developing things. And then what I've always said is if you have old stuff on there that looks terrible, leave it on there because they're going to see your development and how much better you've gotten. And also with the resume, I've had mine out here for the last probably 8 years, and that's gotten me a couple of jobs, because most people don't have that, and when they're applying for jobs, they just send in that 1-page or 2-page PDF, and if you provide a link on that 1-page PDF with, hey, go check this out, they see that you know the tool because you've developed it in the tool that you're being hired for.
Yep, absolutely. And just to prove your point, I scrolled down to some of my older stuff. There's some really basic and just like idea tests and unimpressive stuff if you go down, but it's all out there. So
thank you so much, Ray. Excellent.
Sure.
We definitely learned a few things. I learned a few things myself. I need to try all of that stuff as soon as possible. So just wanted to move into Angéline. I mean, she's great content. Please stay with us. And Angéline, it's all yours. So take it. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, I just wanted to, before getting started, I just wanted to thank Ray because it's not every day that I touch Tableau. It's been quite a while, and I learned a lot. So I'm always super happy to see some tricks. So it was really helpful. Thank you. I will share my screen. So let me see if you can see it. I think it should work.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, awesome. So I'm super excited to have the honor to present in this group today. So I did do that presentation at Tableau Conference. It was the end of April, so a few weeks ago already, and so always happy to share more with another group, especially for those who cannot make it to the Tableau Conference. Or I know there's always a big we have a lot of sessions to choose from at the conference, so sometimes you miss some sessions you would like to attend. So super happy to redo it today. So my name is Angéline. I'm a principal consultant at Slalom. Slalom is a technology and strategy consulting firm. It's based in Seattle, but I am part of the data and analytics team at Slalom in Montreal, in Canada. And I started my career in technology with data visualization and Tableau. And I've also always been passionate about art history. So super happy to be here today and to explore with you the intersection of both disciplines and how we can utilize art techniques and symbols to tell better stories with data. So the presentation is running about 30 minutes, and I'll keep questions at the end with the remaining time and leave some to Yamil and Aaron to close out. All right. Okay, so this is me again. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is how art and data viz have evolved through time, and what is art symbolism, and then we'll deep dive into a few concepts and attributes that we find in both disciplines, such as visual hierarchy, color, and engagement. But before we start, I just want to talk about how this presentation came to life and how I wanted to what I wanted to talk about and why I wanted to present at Tableau Conference. So I did mention that I'm passionate about history and data viz. I've been working in data viz for quite a while now, and I saw throughout the years the democratization of data viz tools, but also the proliferation of dashboards, and most of them, especially in big organizations, not being used. And there are many factors that could be responsible for that, and we're not going to address all of them today. But one thing that I was particularly interested in talking about was the lack of storytelling. And in order to tell better stories, I'm not only interested in the content of my dashboard, but also understanding my viewers' psychology, how to guide my audience through my story and what I want them to see in the most effective way. And I believe if we do a better job at understanding human perception, our dashboards could be much more used. And I'm going to talk. I'm going to keep referring to a concept throughout the presentation. I want to talk about visual perception versus cognition. Data viz, I found it's very effective because it really shifts the balance between perception and cognition to take full advantage of what our brain can do. So seeing is, which is visual perception, it's handled by the visual cortex, and it's very fast, very efficient. So we see immediately something with little effort. But thinking, which is the ability to process the information and referred to as cognition, it's handled by the cerebral cortex, and that's much slower, less efficient. And if we think about on a dashboard, the amount of visual elements we have on there, we need to be aware of the patterns in how people read and interpret those visual elements. And most of the time, I found that those interpretations, they occur at the subconscious level. But it does influence how users perceive and are going to interact with the data that you present. So if we want to design more effectively and tell better stories, we just need to be aware of those visual patterns and cognitive processes for users. So as I said, this is a concept I'll keep, we're going to anchor on in this presentation, and I'll keep referring to it. So let's get started. I want to walk you through a timeline of the different art periods, but also see what data visualization look like at each point of time. Because if we think about evolution in art techniques through time, in parallel with the evolution of data viz, we see interesting similarities between the two disciplines. So I wanna walk you through that. So we're going to start very far back in the prehistory. So this period, it's mostly characteristic of cave art and rock painting. They used to use natural pigments blended with animal fat or plant juice to create a paste. And that's what they would paint with. And at the time, art is mostly used for people to depict their day-to-day lives, what it looked like. When it comes to data viz, at that time, there is no visual representation of data as we know it. In the ancient art period, and this period is mostly defined by monumental architecture, sculpture, and also experimenting with new materials like ceramics. When it comes to data visualization, at this time, they used pictographic writing to represent simple data and transactions, such as quantities of goods or quantities of livestock, for example. They also started to record their data into tabular format for census data or military records. And the ancient Greek, they start developing astrological chart, calendars, geographical diagrams to represent land or regions and travel routes. And if we think about what data viz looked like at the time, we already see the need for people to understand, organize, represent the data visually. And when we see maps like this, like it makes me feel like it makes me think of a Tableau field map. So I don't know if they had Tableau at the time, but it's very familiar to me. And then from the medieval to Renaissance, Baroque, and Neoclassicism, art is going to evolve tremendously. And each art period has its own distinctive feature. For time's sake, I'm not going to go through all of it. But when it comes to data viz, during this long period of time, what we see is the rise and advancement in statistical analysis. And we see the continuous use of maps, but also new type of charts that start to being developed or emerge. The modern period, it really represents a shift, even a rupture from classical traditional art to periods like Impressionism, Cubism, abstract. And at that time, the viewer, like the art viewer, is invited to connect a little bit more with the artwork and to interpret a little bit more. At the time, when it comes to data visualization, we see more advancement in statistical analysis, but this is also the period of time where the most new types of charts are being developed, like the histogram, the Gantt chart, on the screen, like the polar area chart, and many more. And finally, if we look at trends within contemporary art, this is where we see the popularity of immersive experience. I don't know, based on where people from this call are in the world, but you may have heard of the Van Gogh immersive experience or Disney immersive experience. And this is really where visitors, they are going to walk through a space, participate a bit more, almost playing an acting role within the art piece. So you're going to touch, you're going to feel, you're going to see or hear, so all senses can be put at play. So you're not really just a viewer anymore. You're really invited to interact and being part of the art piece. And if we think about data visualization, we've seen that same shift happening from static Excel dashboards to modern interactive dashboards, like in Tableau, for example, and up to today where we're still enabling companies or within our own company self-service BI. So the kind of things that we say often is, oh, we need to let our users play with the data and let them interact with it and have a feel of what the data looks like. So it's really interesting to see how both disciplines, they have evolved through times in terms of techniques and technologies, but also how the information is presented, how the message is conveyed, and especially how they engage their audience through time, across the period of times. So we're going to keep exploring this parallel in this presentation, starting with art symbolism and how that translates to data visualization. So let's start with what is art symbolism. So art symbolism, it refers to the use of symbols, which are usually visual elements, such as objects, colors, shapes, and those symbols, they convey specific meanings. And most of the time, these symbols, they have a cultural, historical, even religious significance, and they're often used by artists to convey or communicate complex ideas. So for example, we're going to look at the allegory of peace and war by Peter Paul Rubens, which is in Baroque art, one of the best examples for art complexity and narrative depth. By the way, I say sometimes the word depth, but sometimes it sounds like death, but I'm saying depth. That's just my English. So if we look at the composition of this painting, this is a classical left to right scene, which is horizontal, which is actually Rubens' signature composition style. The viewer, if we look at this painting, is automatically drawn by the top left figures, where we see the light shining. And then there's kind of a natural circular motion towards the center of the painting with all those characters. And there are a lot of things happening in the middle of this painting. A lot of symbols are used. We see children, we see fruits, we see animals, and all of those have a meaning when they're used in art. So for example, children, they usually represent innocence, hope for the future. The fruits represent abundance, life, and the animals, in this case, this is a leopard, and it's meant to represent strength. But also, we can see that the leopard is very docile, so it also brings some sort of serenity into the painting. And then throughout the painting, we also see references to war and peace with the shields, the helmets, the olive branches. And when we look at color, we can tell how, some area of the painting are put into emphasis by being more in the light or being more in the dark. And this is actually a technique that is called chiaroscuro in Italian. This is really where the artist is going to play with the contrast of light and dark to create some emphasis. And then if we think a little bit more about color, we see throughout the painting the use of deep red or deep gold and green, and that brings a lot of harmony into the painting. So we're not here for an art history course, so how do we tie this all back to data visualization? So you can see how I talked about the composition of the painting, the symbols, whether it's the food, the children, or even the colors. And now that we've talked about it, it gives us a better understanding of what's happening in the painting and what is the intention of the artist. So just as in art, we use symbols like color, objects, in data visualization, we also use visual elements such as chart type, layout, containers, or color palette to represent data and convey insights. So both disciplines, they aim to communicate complex ideas. It's just that art is rooted a little bit more into visual metaphors, but data visualization, it really uses the same principles to visually represent data and facilitate the viewer understanding and interpretation. So now we're going to deep dive into everything we just talked about, starting with storytelling with visual hierarchy. So what is visual hierarchy? So it's the principle of arranging the elements of a design in a way that reflects their relative importance. So it really helps the viewer grasp what the main point is of your design and the details surrounding it. So you can create visual hierarchy by using different attributes: size, color, contrast, alignment, spacing, shape, and typography. And by manipulating those attributes, you can guide the viewer's eye and attention to the most relevant or interesting parts of your data. So we're going to see what it looks like in action. So this painting is The Raft of the Medusa by Théodore Géricault. And we're going to look at the composition and the visual hierarchy and how that has symbolism in itself. And there are many techniques here used by Géricault to guide the viewer through the story. So first of all, talking about size, and you might not see it obviously on the screen, you're gonna have to take my word for it, but this painting is actually 16 by 23 feet tall. So it's monumental. You have to imagine that the figures in the background are life-sized and the figures in the foreground are twice life-sized. So it's huge. And here, just by using scale and proportion, it's going to automatically draw our eyes to the central part of the painting where we really see the scene of desperation. So it's really going to bring emphasis on the struggle of the survivors on the raft. Then if we look at the contrast and in colors, we can see how here Géricault used light to highlight the central group. And there is a clear contrast between that central group and the figures in the background in the dark. Again, bringing emphasis on the forefront of the painting. And something also interesting is that Géricault, throughout the painting, uses a triangular pattern. So there is a first human pyramid on the right, with the culminating point being the man waving the cloth. And there is a second pyramid on the left with the culminating point being the mast. And we see how those two triangles, how the diagonal lines, they converge into two triangles, but again, bringing our attention to the center of the painting. And what's also interesting is that the culminating points, they are perfectly aligned. So that brings also our attention higher in the painting towards the horizon line, where maybe rescue is coming for the survivors. So Here there are various techniques that Jericho used to draw our attention and again facilitate our interpretation of the scene. And in data visualization, we don't use triangular pattern, but we use similar techniques, and we can use the same visual hierarchy attributes on our dashboards to guide our user through the story. So again, we talk about visual hierarchy, a way to prioritize information and help the viewer understand what is important. So one thing I would like to really mention, like to particularly mention, is the importance to arrange visual elements according to eye scanning patterns. Because to know how to prioritize elements on your dashboard, it's important to understand how the viewer is going, the pattern of reading, so how the viewer is going to read. So I want to talk about the F pattern. So the F pattern, it's the most common eye scanning pattern when looking at visual information. So it's a fundamental concept in design, and the idea is to place the most important information on the most scanned spot. So if we follow the F pattern, a viewer is going to start on the upper left corner and reads or scan through the title from left to right, and then they're going to keep reading from left to down, like left down, if that makes sense, creating that F pattern. So one thing to note here that I want to highlight is that obviously this reading pattern is influenced by the reading direction of your language. So in English, we read from left to right, but in some languages, like Arabic, for example, you read from right to left. So that might, this is just a nuance you have to consider, depending on who your audience is, where you build your dashboard. There is also what we call the Z pattern, which is usually a bit more applicable to web pages, but it comes to the same conclusion. If we follow the F or the Z pattern, we find that the bottom right corner of your dashboard is the weakest area in your in the view, and the top left corner is your primary optical area. So we're going to keep talking about a visual hierarchy by looking at another example. So for example, in this dashboard, if we follow the F scanning pattern, we automatically come across those top KPIs, which really became a standard in developing business dashboards. Now we have that horizontal container of KPIs. And then immediately when we scan down from the left, we have that big map that automatically draws our attention. And size is one of the most obvious and effective ways to create visual hierarchy. So by using size, you can quickly emphasize or de-emphasize certain elements depending on their importance or their relevance. But it's not just about the sizing of your chart. It's also your titles, your any instructions or messages you have on your dashboards. You can play also with the size of the font. And the same way we talk about symbols in art, like fruits and characters and animals, which obviously we don't have on dashboards usually. Our symbols in DataViz are icons and shapes and legends and chart type. And for example, when we think about chart type, we know how important it is to select the appropriate chart type for the information you want to convey. And based on, if you want to show correlation, comparison, distribution, there are preferred chart types for each of that. Here, in this case, the map is very effective because there's no reading. It's not like a bar chart where sometimes you have to read the label to see what each bar represents. Here, it's probably the most visual chart that we have. So it's very effective because I understand right away what the message is. Probably here a comparison across state without having to read anything. Assuming I know my geography of the US states, obviously, but This is very effective. And also when it comes to building visual hierarchy, less is always more. So for example, what I love on this dashboard is that there are only 2 colors. And although it's not the traditional red and green, we can quickly identify that here the blue and orange represent some sort of decline and growth. Here our subconscious automatically assign orange, which is closer to red, to a decline. But just the fact that there's only 2 colors on the dashboard brings a lot of harmony overall. So that color attribute, it works really well here. And that's an attribute I actually want to deep dive on, because it is a very powerful attribute, but it's often misused, and it can lead to misinterpretation if it's misused. And that may be where we make a difference between art and data viz, because in art you can leave it to interpretation to some level, but when it comes to your audience, for your dashboards, you don't want to leave room for interpretation. So let's look at how to use color more effectively to tell stories. So if you want to use color to tell story, it also involves understanding the symbolism or psychology of colors and how to use them effectively. And I want to talk about Vasily Kandinsky. So Vasily Kandinsky, he was a Russian painter. He's considered a pioneer of abstract art, and he had a color theory. And his color theory really revolutionized modern art because he really emphasized on the expression and symbolism and power of colors. So it really involved understanding how colors they interact with each other, but also what emotional impact they had. So we're going to talk about a few aspects of his theory. So first of all, he was suffering from a condition which is called synesthesia, and with this condition, basically, it's a condition where one sensory experience can trigger another. So, for example, when he saw color, it would trigger an emotion, or even he would hear a sound. So obviously, it really influenced his artwork because he believed certain colors could trigger certain emotions. He also believed that certain colors had symbolic association. So, for example, this is something we're a bit more familiar with. He thought that joy meant warmth. Yellow meant warmth and joy, and red could mean like passion or danger. He also emphasized on the color harmony and relationships to really bring balance in his art. So just playing with color combination to shape some perception. And finally, my favorite is he believed that color was a form in itself, independent of others. So in data viz, we have the tendency of using colors sometimes for aesthetic purpose, but it has a true functional purpose, and it can be used on its own to convey a message. And we're going to deep dive a little bit more into that. So this is the color wheel. I'm not going to go deep into this because we're supposed to have learned that at school. But here's the idea is that when you build a dashboard, to really consider the message you want to convey, the story you want to tell, and choose your colors accordingly. And what's really interesting is to play with color harmonies and color schemes. So for example, we have what we call analogous colors. So meaning there are colors that are adjacent to each other on the color wheel, and they share similar hues. And it really creates a sense of harmony when you use those colors on a design. So this is a dashboard where it's beautifully used because here the developer used analogous colors to give the perception that the items are closely related to each other, yet they're different in some way. And if we pay attention to the context of the dashboard, we understand that each color represents a land type. So Analogous colors, they're best used to visualize different but equally important metrics or data points. Then we have monochromatic colors. And it's basically a color scheme that uses variation of a single hue. And it's going to include different tints and shades of that hue, ranging from lighter to darker. And in data visualization, we see the use of monochromatic color to show variation of the same data point. And actually, when we think about Tableau, it automatically assigns as best practice a monochromatic color scheme based on a measure and the chart type selection. So for example, here in this dashboard, the color is really well used because we can see that it's used to represent the same data point across 3 charts. We're looking at number of calls, the highest to lowest number of calls by different dimensions, but the color palette is the same throughout. So it's not disrupting for the eye, and you don't have to refer to a legend all the time. You just need to process the color coding once and apply it throughout, even if it's different dimension, like week in the day or state. And then we have the complementary colors. Those colors, they're directly opposite to each other on the color wheel. Like red and green, blue and orange, and they're supposed to intensify each other, but also bring a lot of balance when they're used in equal amounts. So those colors usually, and we've seen that example already, they are meant to represent, give the perception that the dimension, they are directly opposite, so like a positive, negative, or growth or decline. So I want to talk a little bit more about my best practices when I use colors in dashboard, because this is a very powerful visual hierarchy attribute. And this is really, the idea is really to use it to guide the viewer's attention through your story. So you can use bold color for important elements, more muted colors for background or supporting information. The idea is to use it to create some emphasis on the viz. Use color meaningfully, meaning that choose colors that that align with the data you're presenting and the story you want to tell. So for example, this is the lighthouse visualization. And we can see here how the color actually serves a purpose. And I know most of our dashboards in our day-to-day, they don't look like that. But it doesn't mean that you cannot use color to help the viewer understand something they're already familiar with. Like, for example, when you use red and green, those are quick associations you make with those 2 colors. Ensure consistency. So this is probably my biggest pet peeve when I see multiple pie or donut charts on a dashboard all using the same color palette, but let's say blue in the first pie chart means something and it means something else on the second pie chart, and maybe even another thing on the third pie chart. Think about the effort, the amount of effort required to process the information. It takes a lot of back and forth between the charts and legends to just process the information. And I usually like to refer to my little traffic lights metaphor. Imagine you're driving and you reach an intersection. You know that green means you can proceed and red you have to stop. You wouldn't imagine that this color coding at the next intersection is going to change, and that red means you can go and green you have to stop. This is way too much effort that your brain would require to look at the new color coding, process the information, and then react based on that. So this is really the idea of the less disruption, the better it is for the understanding of the viewer. Then use gray for context. So I tend to keep all contextual data in shades of gray to ensure that data points, they are visible, but it doesn't distract the eye from the key insights on your dashboard. And then branding doesn't limit you. So I know most of us were tied to the color palette of the organization, and maybe the choice of colors might be limited for what you can put on the dashboard, but the same, everything we talked about with the color schemes, all those principles, they still apply. And usually all color palettes, you can apply, analogous colors, complementary, and monochromatic. So I'm checking the time, 1:24. I'll have to speed up a little bit. But here, just to wrap up on color, so the idea is really to understand that it's not solely used as an aesthetic feature, but it's truly functional, and that using the right color is really going to reduce the time for viewers to understand your message and what you're trying to show them. All right, finally, I want to discuss about creating more engagement with dashboards and creating a better visualization experience for your audience. So let's talk about the audience, because you can have the more advanced, beautiful dashboards. If it doesn't resonate with users, it will not be used. So far we talked about human perception and viewer psychology, but regardless, we need to spend time getting to know our audience, what they do, what challenges they have, how we can solve them with data. So, throughout the year, I learned to spend more time with people and less time behind my laptop playing with Tableau color palettes. Not saying that it's bad, but just understanding your audience and their behavior will definitely help you build dashboards that, will resonate and tell better stories for them. And that's where art and data viz, they really converge. The human-centric design aspect of it, how to prioritize people experience and interaction. And creating engagement with the audience, it usually starts with the why. It starts with an intention. So most of the time, we have requests coming from the business, and then, we're going to develop a dashboard to answer their question. But now, with the modernization of BI tools, there is a rise in features that can automatically generate insights from data sets like Tableau polls, for example. And we have also the rise of prescriptive and predictive analytics. So, the rise, or for some organization and for some they're more mature, but the idea here is that sometimes the tool can help you uncover insights and tell your own story. However, our role as, I don't know if everybody on the call is a BI developer, but I think we still have a big role in assessing the relevant and suitability of those automated generated insights, because we know our audience. And there's still need a lot of oversight when it comes to data quality and data governance, even if those features, they can help us tell better stories. And finally, I just want to talk about the experience, because we've talked about how we're moving from being just a viewer to somebody who is going to be participating a little bit more into the creation of stories with self-service BI. And for time's sake, I'm not going to go through that art piece, but the idea here is just an art piece where you're an active participant to make it live. So that was the same idea that I've also mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, where people now are able to customize their own report, interact, filter, build their own report all together. But we just need to make sure there are good guardrails to allow them to do that and still make sure that the quality of insights is there. All right, wrapping us up. So if we come back to the beginning of this presentation, we talked about how the lack of storytelling could explain low usage of dashboards. And, we've talked about visual perception, how we can facilitate the interpretation of a dashboard through visual hierarchy, color, and engagement. So I've gathered here, the few of the best practices we have discussed today, and I'm also very happy to share the the slide deck with you, but I think if we do our best to use our symbols more effectively, that could help us guide our users a bit better through the story and help them understand what we're trying to show them. So just to make sure we create stories that drive a positive change for our audience. So I spit up a little bit at the end, but that was it for me today.
Okay. So I think thank you everyone. That's the final thing, right, for your presentation? Anything else you want to say, or anybody wants to have any questions? Anyone? I think we don't have any questions. Is that right? And Aaron, did any questions? Anyone?
This is what you presented at the Tableau conference?
Yes.
Was this your first presentation at the conference?
It was my first at Tableau. Yes.
Nice.
Right. Very good. Any other question? Say Nancy said very beautiful work. They said it was very helpful, incredibly interesting. Yeah, super interesting. Like how that all related to, right? Like to this data visualization, etc. Anybody have any other questions for Angéline? Thank you so much, Angéline, for coming all the way from Canada to, give us this great presentation. Like you said, bringing this from the Tableau conference to here, like you said, not a lot of people can go to every single session, and sometimes like it's just impossible. I mean, there's so many sessions I wish I could have the chance to go, but I couldn't do that. And of course, all these people that were not able even to go to the conference. I mean, I'm bringing this to a user group is a great, wonderful idea to keep sharing and to keep bringing those great presentations to more audience and more people from the data community. Anybody have any other question? Aaron, do you have any questions?
I do not.
You're good. Well,
Good.
everybody, thank you everyone for being with us today. Again, thank you to Ray and Angéline to share great knowledge with us today. And I will say that that's all for today. And we'll see you all next month on the 17th at the same time from lunch to 1:30 Eastern time. We'll see you again next month. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Angéline, for everything.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Ray. Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day and a wonderful week.